There is a kind of wisdom that only pain can teach. Not the pain that breaks your body, but the pain that cracks your heart open. The kind that makes you see the world not as you versus them, but as us. All trembling, all trying, all human. The Dalai Lama once said, "Suffering is the seed of compassion." And when you think about it, isn't that the strange beauty of being alive? That the very thing we run from, grief, heartbreak, disappointment, becomes the quiet doorway to understanding another soul. Think about the moments that truly changed you. Was it when everything went right, or when something inside you shattered, and you finally saw how fragile everyone else was too? Pain humbles us. It softens our certainties. It strips away the arrogance that blinds us to others' wounds. And in its aftermath, something tender begins to grow. A gentleness that whispers, "I know what that feels like." Maybe empathy isn't born from peace at all, but from the ashes of what once hurt us most. Because when your own heart has been broken, you can finally hear the quiet breaking in someone else's. But what if the suffering we dread is the very thing that teaches us how to love? We live in an age where everyone wants to appear strong. We hide our cracks behind polished smiles, edit our pain with filters, and package our vulnerability into perfectly worded captions. We celebrate success, resilience, and self-care. But somewhere along the way, we forgot how to simply ache. The modern world tells us, don't let it show, don't let them see you weak. So we turn pain into silence, and silence into distance. We scroll past stories of suffering, our thumbs numb to the cries behind the headlines. And even when we feel our own heart tightening, we whisper, "I'm fine," because to admit pain feels like failure. But this is the paradox of our time. The more we hide our wounds, the more disconnected we become. We've mistaken numbness for strength, as if feeling less could somehow protect us from being human. Yet everywhere you look, the evidence tells another story. The friend who confesses their anxiety and suddenly everyone else starts to breathe easier. The stranger who shares their grief and somehow the room becomes warmer. The tears that fall, not as weakness, but as an unspoken invitation to authenticity. Pain, it seems, is not the enemy. It's the bridge. It's what reminds us that beneath our titles, our masks, our differences, we are all trembling in the same storm. The Dalai Lama often speaks of shared suffering, that the key to compassion isn't pity, but understanding that every being, no matter how peaceful they appear, carries invisible burdens. Your neighbor's silence might be filled with worry. Your colleague's anger might be grief in disguise. And your own pain, the one you keep tucked behind your ribs, is part of a much larger, universal story. But we resist it. We distract ourselves with endless motion, with screens, goals, noise. We tell ourselves we don't have time to feel, because feeling slows us down. And in doing so, we lose the language of empathy, a language that can only be learned through stillness and listening. What if the world's coldness isn't born from cruelty, but from unhealed pain? What if every unkind act, every judgment, every moment of indifference is just someone's quiet way of saying, "I haven't been heard"? In a society obsessed with progress, we measure worth by what doesn't hurt. But maybe true evolution isn't about escaping suffering. It's about expanding our hearts to hold it all. Because when pain is denied, empathy dies with it. And when empathy fades, humanity follows. So the question isn't how to avoid pain, but how to stay open in its presence. What if, instead of running from our wounds, we learned to let them speak, not just for ourselves, but for the whole human story they belong to? Pain is a strange teacher. It never arrives politely. It knocked before entering your life. It storms in, uninvited, uncompromising, and rearranges everything you thought you understood about yourself. At first, we resist it. We demand answers. We beg for relief. We try to fix, to heal, to move on, as if the goal of life were to never feel discomfort again. But what if pain isn't here to be conquered, but to be listened to? The Dalai Lama once said, "Compassion is not a luxury. It is a necessity for human survival." And perhaps pain is the doorway through which compassion enters. Because to truly understand another person's sorrow, you must have met your own. When everything falls apart, a relationship ends, a dream collapses, a loss cuts through you, you begin to see the truth that no philosophy can teach, that life's most powerful transformations happen in the space between breaking and healing. Pain pulls the ego apart. It strips away the illusion that you are separate from the rest of existence. It humbles you into connection. When you have suffered, even silently, you start to recognize that every being, every stranger passing on the street, is also carrying something unseen. There is a Buddhist teaching that says, if you can understand your own suffering, you will never again harm another being. This is not moral instruction, it's awareness. The realization that your pain and theirs are not two different rivers, but streams flowing from the same source. And once you see that, empathy stops being an effort. It becomes instinct. Your heart softens, not out of virtue, but because you know how it feels. Modern spirituality often sells the idea of peace as escape, as if enlightenment means never hurting again. But the Dalai Lama teaches something quieter, more radical. That true peace is not the absence of suffering, but the presence of understanding within it. Think of it this way. Pain is the fire that burns away illusion. When you walk through it consciously, you discover that what hurts is also what heals. Like iron forged in heat, the soul becomes tempered by experience. And in that tempering, compassion is born, not as sentiment, but as strength. Because compassion is not soft, it is fierce. It's what allows a person to hold another's suffering without drowning in it. It's what lets you forgive when your mind still remembers the wound. It's what keeps humanity alive in a world that often forgets how to feel. In the silence that follows pain, a deeper voice begins to speak, one that doesn't belong to your ego, but to the timeless awareness underneath it. It whispers, "You are not alone, and neither is anyone else." This is the essence of the Dalai Lama's teaching, that compassion is not pity, not sympathy, not charity. It is the recognition of shared being. When you suffer and stay open, you become a vessel for something larger, the collective pulse of humanity itself. To let pain teach you compassion means to live with eyes unshielded. It means walking through life with tenderness instead of armor. It means choosing presence over protection. Because the heart that feels deeply may break often, but it also becomes unbreakable in its understanding. The philosopher Rumi once wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." That light is compassion, and compassion, once awakened, never fully disappears. It becomes a quiet power that shapes the way you see, the way you listen, the way you forgive. When you let pain teach you, you stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What can this show me about love?" Because love, in its truest form, is not born in comfort. It's born in the willingness to stay open, even when everything hurts. Imagine if every person who suffered used their pain to understand another's. Wars would end before they began. Cruelty would have no place to hide, and empathy would no longer be seen as weakness, but as the highest form of wisdom. To live this way requires courage. It means allowing pain to break your heart without letting it harden your spirit. It means looking at suffering, your own and others, and saying, "I will not turn away." Because every time you do, you expand the circle of compassion around you. You add warmth to a world that desperately needs it. And, slowly, the pain that once felt meaningless becomes sacred, a seed from which kindness grows. The ultimate truth is simple. Pain is not punishment. It is participation, a reminder that you belong to everything that lives and breathes. And when you stop fighting it, you begin to hear the quiet teaching hidden inside it. That love and suffering are not opposites, but reflections of the same depth. The deeper you hurt, the deeper you can love. The more you lose, the more room there is for empathy to bloom. That is the paradox of being human. To be broken and whole at the same time. Because in learning to hold your own pain with compassion, you learn to hold the world the same way. There was once a monk who lived high in the Himalayas. He was known for his serenity, his soft voice, his calm presence. Pilgrims traveled for days to sit before him, hoping to learn the secret of peace. But few knew his story. Years before, he had been a soldier, proud, quick-tempered, trained to destroy. One winter night, during a border conflict, he led his men through a burning village. Flames devoured the wooden homes, screams cut through the smoke, and in that chaos, he saw a mother clutching her child, terrified, trembling, trapped in fire. He hesitated only for a moment. That moment cost them their lives. He carried their faces for years. At first he drowned them in silence, in discipline, in prayer, in exile. He shaved his head, left behind the world, and climbed into the mountains, hoping the thin air would erase memory. But memory followed. It always does. Each night, when the wind howled through the monastery halls, he saw the mother's eyes again, not accusing, only human. And slowly, something inside him began to shift. His prayers changed. He stopped asking for forgiveness and began asking for understanding. One morning, as dawn spilled over the snow, he was meditating outside the temple. A young boy approached, shivering, hungry, lost. The monk offered him food and warmth, and when the boy's small hands brushed his, a strange stillness filled the air. The monk felt the same trembling he once saw in that mother's arms. For the first time, he didn't turn away. In that moment, he understood. To truly see another's suffering is to touch your own. The walls between the guilty and the innocent, the victim and the destroyer, melt away. Only humanity remains, raw, imperfect, radiant in its fragility. From that day, the monk began teaching compassion not through words, but through presence. He tended to the sick, sat with the dying, listened to the grief-stricken. And in doing so, he discovered a truth the Dalai Lama often spoke of, that compassion is not a virtue of saints, but the ordinary courage of the heart to remain open in the face of pain. One evening, a student asked him, "Master, have you found peace?" He smiled, his eyes soft as dusk. "No," he said, "I have found pain that no longer frightens me." The student looked puzzled. The monk continued, "Peace isn't the absence of suffering. It's the acceptance that pain too belongs to life, and that when you touch it with love, it transforms into understanding." The mountain wind carried his words down the valley, through fields, rivers, and villages. People who heard his story didn't speak of miracles. They spoke of something deeper, a man who turned his sorrow into a bridge. And maybe that's all any of us are meant to do. To take the ache that life gives us and make something gentle out of it. To turn our private suffering into empathy, so that someone else might suffer a little less. Because compassion is not born from theories, but from the willingness to feel. To kneel beside another's pain and whisper, "I've been there too." In that quiet act, we redeem not only ourselves, but the whole world. The monk never forgot the fire, but he no longer feared it. He saw now that the same flame that destroys can also illuminate, that every wound, when held in awareness, becomes a candle lighting the way for others. And when he finally passed away, the villagers said the mountain seemed softer that day, as if even the wind had learned to weep with compassion. Perhaps that's what it means to heal. Not to erase the fire, but to learn to carry its warmth without being burned. There are moments in life when words collapse, when language feels too small to contain the ache. A funeral, a hospital hallway, a breakup that leaves silence where laughter used to live. In those moments, all the philosophies you've ever read dissolve, and what remains is just the raw pulse of being human. This is where compassion is born, not in comfort, but in the ruins of understanding. When the Dalai Lama speaks of compassion, he does not mean a soft, sentimental emotion. He means the courage to feel deeply, even when your heart is splitting open. He means standing before another's suffering and saying, "I will not look away." Because real compassion doesn't begin with kindness. It begins with recognition. With the moment you realize that the tears on someone else's face could just as easily be yours. There is no real boundary between my pain and yours. There is only one heartbeat, expressed in 1,000 different bodies. When we suffer, we're tempted to retreat into isolation, to believe that no one could possibly understand. But that belief is the greatest illusion of all. Every person you meet is carrying something invisible, a memory, a fear, a loss, a hope. And when you begin to see this, truly see it, the world changes shape. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop demanding perfection from others. You begin to notice the quiet heroism in ordinary people. The single mother smiling through exhaustion. The old man feeding birds alone at dawn. The friend who checks on you, even when they're breaking too. Compassion connects you to all of them. It's what turns strangers into kin. It's what dissolves the invisible walls between you and me, between them and us. And once that connection is felt, even pain becomes holy, because it reminds you of what you are part of. There's a moment, subtle but unmistakable, when grief transforms. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin to ask, "How can this pain be used for good?" That's the alchemy of compassion, turning sorrow into service, turning wounds into wisdom. When you help someone through their darkness, you are, in truth, guiding yourself. Their healing reflects your own. Their peace deepens yours. Because empathy is not something you give. It's something you become. The Dalai Lama once said, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." In that one line lies the symmetry of existence, that to love is to heal both ways. The world doesn't need more people pretending to be invincible. It needs people willing to stay tender in a world that rewards hardness. People who can say, "I've been hurt, but I still choose to love." That is the highest form of strength. So when your own heart aches again, and it will, remember this. You are being invited once more to understand, to connect, to expand. Because the heart that has suffered deeply is the one most capable of embracing the world. The next time pain visits your life, don't rush to silence it. Don't wrap it in distractions or bury it beneath productivity. Sit with it. Let it breathe. Listen to what it's trying to say. Because pain, when welcomed, becomes a mirror. It shows you where you've closed your heart and where you're ready to open again. It reveals that compassion is not something to learn. It's something to remember. You were born with it before fear taught you to guard your tenderness. The Dalai Lama's wisdom is simple yet revolutionary. If you let your pain soften you, not harden you, you will change the world. Quietly, profoundly, one moment of understanding at a time. So, pause. Breathe. Think of someone who is suffering today. A friend, a stranger, maybe even yourself. And instead of turning away, send a thought of kindness their way. It costs nothing, yet it shifts everything. Compassion is not about grand gestures. It's about presence. It's about meeting the ache of the world with eyes that say, "I see you." Because empathy is not weakness. It's how humanity survives its own chaos. And maybe, just maybe, your pain was never punishment. It was the universe's way of teaching you how to love more truthfully. When pain softens the heart, compassion becomes its language.